sekarang rasanya sangat panas. Kami seperti nggak bertahan lagi untuk hidup di daerah yang semakin panas ini.
Makanan di rumah hanya cukupnya 2 hari begitulah. Kita kasih apa nanti ini kalau habis.
These are the stories of people living on the front lines of climate change.
The risks and threats of climate change are real. This is not just some kind of projection. This is happening right now.
Communities across Asia are constantly fighting a daily battle. Intense heat waves are killing thousands. Prolonged droughts are destroying livelihoods.
Nắng khoảng tháng nữa chắc vườn nhà mình chắc còn chừng 15-20 cây là giữ chứ không nữa.
Megacities have run out of water.
ஆபீஸ்லேருந்து சொல்லுவாங்க அதுக்கு நாம எடுத்துட்டு போனோம் அடிச்சு புடிச்சினே போனோம் அந்த தெருவுக்கு அங்க போனா அடிச்சுப்பாங்க வேற.
While people's homes sink into the sea.
Yo nengkene mas, mati urip yo senengkene.
This is 24 hours in the lives of those worst affected. Their resilience in the face of crisis.
Sebenarnya masyarakat itu kalau diberi solusi untuk soal yang dialami, dia bisa melakukan lebih daripada apa yang kita pikirkan.
This is the longest day. In remote Sumba, East Indonesia, villages are waking up to the longest drought in recent memory. In its largest town, Waingapu, the morning market still offers some reassurance of nourishment. But for many of Sumba's 800,000 residents, the drought has hit hard. In the remote highlands, farmers are completely reliant on rain for survival.
Tidak ada hujan, kita tidak tanam lagi. Musim kemarau Pak, tidak ada air lagi. Kan kali ke bawah, kebun di atas. Paling jauh kalau kita angkat air dari kali.
This tiny cornfield is all that Anna has to feed her family of 6. It rained a little in recent weeks, but that was barely enough to keep her crop alive.
Lihat ini jagung Pak, berarti belum aman, belum yakin kita makan ini. Hah? Ini ulat semua sudah, ini jagung, 1 kebun Pak. Ini sudah ulat sama yang habis kita pun jagung. Hujan sekali-sekali, jagung habis dari ulat. Habis semua sudah 1 kebun. Tapi saya sedih, saya pikir-pikir apalagi ada cucu lagi, kami lagi.
Sumba is one of Indonesia's driest places, partly a result of intensive logging that stripped away 90% of forest cover and altered the local climate. Here, dry seasons can stretch for 6 months. But in 2019, families like Anna's waited nearly 9 months for rain.
Dirga lahir tahun lalu musim kemarau panjang. Iya sudah, kita khawatir juga. Makanan di rumah hanya cukupnya 2 hari begitulah. Kita kasih apa nanti ini kalau habis beras kita makan jagung, ubi.
Anna and her family have lived in Sumba for generations and have been farmers all their lives. Faced with years of intense drought, they have had to adapt to survive.
Kalau musim kemarau, tidak bisa mau tanam, kita pergi di hutan saja. Dia ada setengah jam sampai di hutan kita cari iwi.
The yams grow wild in the forest, providing a precious source of food for highland communities. They can mean the difference between survival and starvation, if you can find them.
Ini susahnya ini cari iwi. Ini gunung-gunung kita cari iwi. Ini tinggi, ini samanya tinggi. Toh kita cari iwi. Nanti kalau ini kita mau guling apa ini jatuh, kita guling-guling di bawah sampai di bawah sudah. Ini kita mau cari iwi banyak-banyak baru kita cukup makan kita keluarga yang 6 orang. Oh, ini besar ini iwi ini tidak apa. Keras ini, uy. Ay, terlalu besar ini, uy. Senang ini. Kita mau dapat iwi yang besar-besar ini. Saya senang sudah.
As global temperatures rise, droughts in Southeast Asia will become more intense. Due to a climate phenomenon called El Niño, which brings unusually hot and dry air from the Pacific Ocean to the region. It's not just Indonesia that suffers. In Vietnam's Mekong Delta, farmers are confronting their worst drought on record. The delta is where the Mekong River empties into the sea. This is the rice bowl of Vietnam, a lifeline for 15 million rice farmers and their families. Vietnam is the world's 3rd largest rice exporter, and half of its crop is grown in these fertile lands. But unexpectedly low rainfall has shrunk the river to record levels. This has allowed salty seawater to intrude deeper inland than ever before. The crisis worsened in December 2019. Out in the rice fields, the crops have died, leaving only grass and weeds.
Nay cũng có mấy anh hàng xóm cắt đi ra trước, cắt ở cái bờ. Mùa hạn mặn vừa qua thì hộ gia đình tôi gặp rất là nhiều khó khăn. Đây là những cái bụi lúa còn sót lại nè, nó thất trắng, không có bông vậy nè, bông khô đó rồi thất thì rồi bỏ không có thu hoạch á. Rồi nước mặn lên nữa.
By this time of the year, Hyun Ban Chung should be harvesting his November winter crop. and selling it for a profit of $800 a hectare. Instead, on this spring morning, he, like many other rice farmers, are clearing their land of weeds and counting their losses.
Toàn thể cái diện tích của bà con ở đây là thất trắng hết á, là gần như 100%, riêng còn một vài hộ thôi được chắc cũng khoảng 20% gì đó, gỡ vốn vậy đỡ vậy thôi, chứ còn thực tế thì nó cũng coi như gần như 100% rồi đó. Nói chung mùa năm nay, đông xuân năm nay thì chính quyền địa phương cũng có chia sẻ, thông báo cũng cấm không cho bà con làm. Do người ta nắm được cái tình hình nước ở trên thượng nguồn nó ít, người ta cũng thông báo, nhưng mà bà con thì cứ nghĩ như những cái năm gần đây, 2 năm gần đây thì cũng có thông báo nhưng mà lại đủ nước. Là ai cũng thích mừng cái vụ đông xuân này, một là nó nhẹ nhàng, ít công. Cái thứ hai, nếu mà nó trúng là nó trúng bằng 2 vụ kia. Tiếc chứ, thay vì khoảng chừng nửa tháng nữa thôi, thì trong vòng 2 tuần nữa thì có thể là có thu hoạch. Bởi vì 2 tuần nữa nó trổ vừa cuối là mình bỏ nước được rồi đó.
Nông dân thì phải vậy đó, thắt mùa bây giờ mình phải thêm ba cái cỏ đang về tận dụng chăn nuôi.
Ăn nhiều lắm thêm rồi.
Vậy ấy ha, anh ngọn nước đi. Tôi làm vậy hồi nước á.
Dari Jalan Hayam Wuruk nomor 28 Waingapu, berbagi manfaat untuk Anda dan keluarga. Max 96,9.
Yang baru bergabung, salam kenal saja dan terima kasih mendengarkan Max FM untuk menemani Anda sepanjang hari ini ya. Saya Hendrik Dengi yang menemani sobat sekalian di pagi ini. Sekarang sudah jam 9 pagi.
Every weekday, veteran DJ Heinrich Dengi broadcasts a popular morning show to 53,000 people in his hometown of Waingapu. Heinrich discusses the biggest news of the day, and in the past few months, it's been all about the drought.
Ya, dalam siaran-siaran di radio, saya sendiri juga waktu mengudara juga pernah ditelepon masyarakat yang mereka orang yang bekerja, cuma sekarang mau bekerja dengan situasi bagaimana kalau hujan itu tidak datang. Ya untuk petani-petani kecil tentu saja saya khawatir mereka bisa bertahan menghadapi situasi kecil ini. Kadang-kadang kalau tiap tahun kita main bicara itu ya, saya sakit juga gitu loh. Pertanyaan besarnya terus gimana solusinya ya untuk hal-hal seperti itu gitu. Beberapa tahun terakhir ini saya dan teman-teman mendirikan salah satu foundation ya. Kami ke desa untuk bertemu dengan masyarakat, berdiskusi mencari solusi untuk mereka bisa menghadapi situasi-situasi kekeringan seperti ini ya.
Across Asia, prolonged drought is accelerating the collapse of fragile ecosystems. In Rajasthan, India, a bold experiment is underway to stop the march of the desert. In drought-prone Rajasthan, the Thar Desert is expanding faster than ever before. In the last 20 years, it has encroached into 15 million hectares of fragile drylands, making it harder and harder for local farmers to survive. Restoring the lands is an urgent task.
Hello everyone, Namaste. My name is Gaurav Gurjar and we are trying to bring back lost forests of the desert.
Gaurav Gurjar is working with an NGO called A Forest that uses native trees to help restore barren lands. It's a small but bold start to regenerate a fragile ecosystem at the edge of the Thar Desert.
This is already a place where temperature and all other environmental factors are at an extreme. These places will become uninhabitable if any further destruction takes place on these lands.
Gaurav is trained in urban afforestation and natural farming. He has planted forests in India, Pakistan, and Lebanon, bringing life back to challenging environments. But nothing prepared him for what he's facing at Marwar.
When we decided to take up this land, first challenge for us was the water. We didn't had any surface water, we didn't had any groundwater, because even this water is actually completely saline and it's not suitable for giving to plants or giving it to or even animals wouldn't drink it. And the land I am sitting on, it forms a white layer of salt when the water evaporates. Our main goal of coming here to grow this jungle in very tough patch of land was that if we are able to do it here, we could do it anywhere, because this is the most challenging space we have ever encountered.
As Gaurav grapples with the toxic salinity of Marwar's water, in the Mekong Delta, farmers are coming to terms with their water problems. This is a community in crisis. Freshwater supplies have dried up, forcing 5 provinces to declare a state of emergency. Drought has also destroyed 43,000 hectares of rice fields, hurting farmers like Hung Bang Chung. All morning, he and his wife have been clearing their parched field of weeds.
Mình là người nông dân, nó phải cực khổ như vậy. Còn như vậy nè, giờ ví dụ mình đổ công xuống nhưng mà mình thu hoạch nó ít lắm.
Thấy vậy chứ như đi tập thể dục, ở thành thị tôi chạy thể dục, mình vừa lao động vừa thể dục, thành ra nó cũng sức khỏe cũng tốt. Theo mình hiểu cái biến đổi khí hậu là nó không điều hòa như hàng năm từ xưa giờ, thì khi thì mưa nó nhiều quá, không có nắng, còn khi thì nắng kéo dài mà lại không có mưa, đó là nó không đều đặn á, thì gọi là nó biến đổi khí hậu vậy thôi.
But what Chung and every Delta farmer instinctively know is that there won't be another planting season unless the water quality improves. Every morning, a local government official comes to give an update.
Đi đo độ mặn về, nay độ mặn quá cao. Nay mình tới 7.7. Cỏ mùa hạn mặn này cũng thôi, nó khô ha, nó cũng không bằng vụ mưa xuống.
Trái thì giờ nó hơi cùng rồi cũng quơ đại nó về, coi vậy chứ nó cũng lộn, nó ăn hết anh. Vậy chứ giờ khô không có thèm, nó cũng ăn hết trơn.
The news about the water salinity is worrying. At 7.7, it's 8 times saltier than what rice crops can tolerate.
Bây giờ nước sinh hoạt nè, rồi nước tưới cho cây trồng, rồi tưới cỏ, mà đặc biệt là cái sinh hoạt vẫn xài nước mặn thôi, giờ phải chịu thôi chứ còn không có cách nào khác.
Like many other rice farmers in the Mekong Delta, Chung is relying on his cows to survive this terrible drought.
Nói chung là mình tận dụng qua cái này là nó đỡ thu nhập, tính ra là 50% á. Nó được 10 con bò nái. Hiện giờ Hôm rồi nó đẻ được 5 con nghé mà mới bán hết 2 con rồi, còn giờ còn 3 nghé. Mình tận dụng qua cái cỏ này là chăn nuôi là cái nguồn thu không chừng lớn hơn mùi ruộng luôn á.
The crisis is forcing this lifelong rice farmer to rethink his reliance on the land and adapt. Meanwhile, in Rajasthan, Gaurav Gujjar is harnessing all of his experience and skill as a forest maker to save a patch of barren land from turning into desert. He wants to restore the native forest, but Mother Nature is not making it easy.
All these green things that you see, this is invasive species, non-native species, and this has basically taken over everything here, and it doesn't allow any other species to grow. However, when we came to this land, we removed all that species manually using a lot of labor work. We got it removed. So when we removed it, there was a lot of native shrubs, a lot of native grasses which came back in this land.
Little by little, a dormant ecosystem is being woken up.
If we just go a little closer, we have these seed pods which have just burst open, and once they open, they just basically fly.
Using nature as an ally, Gaurav is building his forest of native trees, combining them in a precise, calculated way that will naturally accelerate their growth.
In the desert, growing these combinations, how close they are, what are the combinations, which trees like to grow, which combinations of shrubs and trees like to grow together. So we have mimicked those patterns of nature that we observed, and we have tried to plant this forest here. I'm watering the forest. We keep the watering level in a way that the water falls in a projectile motion. So it reaches up till a height, it reaches a zero velocity and then drops it. So in a way it is actually mimicking the rain patterns, how the rain falls on the land. We make them go through water stress, we make them go through heat stress, so that the plants slowly in a year or 2 years time, they become adapted to the climate in this zone and in this area. So that is also very necessary.
Dari hutan tadi kita mau dapat iwi, baru sampai di rumah kita olahnya begini, kupas, baru kita mau apa lagi caranya olahnya ini iwi, kita mau iris-iris. Habis iris kita jemur di matahari.
With only 2 days of food left at home, Martin has found enough wild yams to save his family of 6 from starvation. But this life-saving tuber is both a blessing and a curse.
Ini katanya, ini ui ini, kan ini ui dia ada katal, kan racunnya itu ui. Kalau 2-3 hari, ini lubang-lubang ini, panas ini katanya.
Samakan itu harkan ubi yang kena hujan. Samakan saya pernah mabuk 1 hari. Lemas begitu, mabuk. Iya, muntah. Karena tidak ada makan lain, kita mati kalau tidak ada ubi hutan. Rambo, mari kau lihat cara masak ubi hutan. Oleh begini. Ini mau masak, ini mau siap masak. Rambo, siap piring sudah kita makan. Sudah masak Ambil piring. Kita sendok.
Wild yams are the only food that rural families like Martens have during times of drought. This reliance on just a tiny number of food items is why malnutrition is a serious problem in Sumba, especially among children. More than half of children are anemic, and 7 in 10 are smaller than average.
Di desa ini ada yang kurang gizi. Tanda-tanda kurang gizinya itu mukanya pucat, kurus, matanya cekung, lemas. Kemarau panjang kemarin itu sangat berpengaruh terhadap ketersediaan pangan kami itu dalam rumah tangga. Karena kadang kami kewalahan pangan sehingga sampai akhirnya kita kadang makan kosong, makan cukup dengan garam, seperti itu.
But these days, lunchtime at Gerard's house is a very different spread.
Ini adalah sayur daun lap. Ini sayur namanya sayur terung yang sudah ditumis kering. Ini diambil di kebun kami sendiri.
Such abundance during drought was once impossible to imagine. But today, led by radio journalist Heinrich Dengi, Gerard and other highland farmers have a way out of their water crisis.
Bisa kita itu angkat paling sedikit itu 4 orang.
Istirahat.
Yuk, istirahat.
Istirahat.
Istirahat yuk. Dulu.
Oke.
1, 2, 3.
Ya kita bisa lihat kalau kita pergi dengan kontur wilayah yang berbukit-bukit, bergunung-gunung, dan orang atau masyarakat itu biasanya tinggalnya di atas bukit atau di atas gunung. Sehingga untuk dia menjangkau air itu menjadi kesulitan tersendiri. Karena waktu kami lihat itu ada kebun mereka cukup luas. Waktu kita bilang ini lahan bisa dipanen, mereka bilang tidak mungkin bisa. Ini hanya ada rumput tinggi begitu.
Radio journalist Heinrich Dengi started a foundation to help remote communities cope with drought. After years of reporting on the issues faced by farmers, he felt compelled to act. The solution was this water pump.
Tanpa menggunakan BBM bisa memompa air ya dengan ketinggian vertikal 20 meter, dan itu sangat cocok untuk kontur wilayah kita di Sumba atau di NTT umumnya.
But the steep and uneven terrain makes this a treacherous journey. One wrong step could spell disaster.
Ayo, siap.
Hati-hati loh, Om Gerard. Hati-hati loh.
Ayo.
2, 3.
Ya. Hangin ngitip lah kan imuk kan, Ray. Ayah. Awas pelan-pelan. Pelan-pelan.
Woi, kenapa tay?
Aduh. Pelan-pelan.
Apalagi kalau misalnya ada tanjakan, lalu turun-menurun lagi, itu sangat susah. Tapi dengan adanya sungai yang menanjak, yang deras, itu tertebus juga. berenang ketika pas debit air tinggi, besar, kita harus berenang untuk memasang pompa ini.
Geras, mantap kok. Ya, ini pompa Barsa ya. Jadi cara kerjanya, pompa ini dibawa ke sungai. Nanti arus air memutar baling-baling pompa ini. Kemudian di saat dia memutar, langsung memompa air. Cukup panjang waktu yang kering sehingga air memang sangat dibutuhkan di kebun. Geras, pompa ini bisa.
Over in Rajasthan, Gaurav is also looking for a sustainable source of water. He needs it for his ambitious plan to restore the barren and fragile drylands on the edge of the Thar Desert. But this is a land prone to devastating drought, where water is a constant challenge for the people who live here.
Rajasthan has always been a desert state, but what we have seen from the old paintings, so Rajasthan used to look very different from what it is looking like right now around here. And it used to have very huge trees, but we are losing that desert ecosystem as well.
Drawing on the past, Gaurav learnt that people here once successfully collected rainwater using a network of channels and ponds. These water harvesting structures no longer exist. But Gaurav is reviving the idea.
These are the channels that we made from which water would flow in. Though rains are very scanty in these landscapes, but when they fall in quite a good quantities. Our goal in terms of water conservation is to make this land permanently hydrated. So first thing that we have to do is to conserve the rainwater, then develop these water harvesting structures, and then develop these forests. And it will basically equalize or re-establish the water cycle of this area. And if we could do this type of stuff, we'll be very happy and we'll definitely feel very accomplished.
For Gaurav, the water channels work by obeying the natural contours of the land. But in the Mekong Delta, canals are a triumph of human engineering over nature. These irrigation channels are part of a system of dams and floodgates that block the sea from entering, allowing rice production to thrive. But in the face of an unusually severe drought, these man-made structures are not able to protect rice farmers like Hung Bang Chung.
Bây giờ mà nước mặn mà nó lên thì ruộng đất nó bị nhiễm mặn thì mình đợi phải mưa xuống cho nó giả một cái thời gian nó rửa mặn thì mới có thể bắt đầu mình xuống giống cái vụ hè của năm nay được.
As climate change makes life more difficult in the Mekong Delta, many choose to leave. Over 1.7 million people have migrated to the cities in the past 10 years, more than any other region in Vietnam.
Thành ra bây giờ ở nông thôn rất là thiếu cái nhân công lao động, cái lực lượng trẻ là không có, cái lực lượng trung niên với già không mà độ khoảng chừng vài năm nữa thì cái lao động là không còn nữa. Đối với con tôi với trẻ bây giờ tôi thấy hình như là nó không gắn bó với người nông lắm.
With both his daughters moving to the city, the burden of his dying rice field is one that Chung and his wife have to bear on their own. Despite facing one of his most challenging years as a farmer, leaving is not an option.
Mà có lẽ là khi mà khó khăn á, do cái tình hình thời tiết như thế này thì có lẽ là cái hướng sẽ chuyển đổi cơ cấu cây trồng từ cây lúa, rồi mình có thể mình chuyển sang cây ăn trái hoặc là cây màu để mà mình theo cái thời tiết, theo cái thiên nhiên, chứ bây giờ nghề nông thì không bỏ.
For the rice farmers of the Mekong Delta, an uncertain future awaits. While in the Sumba highlands, resourcefulness is paying off for a community of farmers.
Pelan-pelan, pelan-pelan. Woi.
Saya sudah mendengar pompa Barsa ini sejak dari tahun 2015. Kami penasaran, sampai tidak makan siang karena ingin lihat. Untuk setelah pompa ini kincir air ini terpasang di tempat yang tepat, kami melakukan instalasi pipa ke arah kebun. Pipa itu, pemasangan pompa ini cukup berat karena jadi jarak dari sungai itu sekitar 200 meter lah.
Gerard's village is one of 10 communities that Heinrich is helping through the water pump project.
Karena sesuai kesepakatan kita, kalau mereka mau pakai terus ini pompanya mereka bisa pakai. Sedangkan kawan-kawan petani, mereka yang menanam, berusaha sampai berhasil tanam dan panen, kemudian dijual. Kesepakatan yang kami ambil selama ini dengan petani, yaitu sekitar 20% hasil panen itu dikembalikan ke yayasan. Menurut saya proyek ini sukses karena bisa kita lihat di kelompok-kelompok tani itu mereka panen melimpah ya. Dari cerita kelompok tani itu bagus loh untuk keluarga mereka. Karena pertama sayur itu selain untuk dijual terutama untuk dimakan dulu.
Waktu pertama kali pompa kincir air ini terpasang dan terairi di kebun kami, kami berteriak itu dengan senang bersama kawan. Kami teriak, "Jos, Jos!" Ada yang sampai main air basah-basah seperti itu.
Now that Gerard has constant access to water, food is no longer a worry. He's thinking ahead and experimenting with new crops to sell in the market.
Ini lagi buat bekong. Bekong ini pengganti polybag buat semai semangka. Untuk musim kemarau ini baru pertama kali saya yang sendiri menanam semangka. Yang lain-lain belum pernah.
Melihat situasi petani yang kami dampingi, kami bahagia sekali. Dan melihat mereka bisa makan sayur, kemudian bisa menjual, itu bagi saya itu sesuatu banget gitu ya kalau kita bilang itu. Sebenarnya masyarakat itu kalau diberi solusi untuk soal yang dialami, dia bisa melakukan lebih daripada apa yang kita pikirkan.
While Gerard and his fellow farmers now have a guaranteed supply of water, for Gaurav in Rajasthan, it's not so certain.
I'm going to show you an interesting observation that I have been recording over past several years. This is how a local weather department works. The height of the crow's nest decides the amount of rainfall that will happen that year. So it is said that lower the height of the nest, more is the rainfall, because the crow wants to protect its nest from direct rainfall. So these two nests were made this year, and this nest was made last year. So we'll feel positive about it. Okay, this year's rains will be good, and this will be good for our forest as well.
With this glimmer of hope, Gaurev's team are preparing for the future. They are harvesting the seeds of native trees and building a seed bank to expand their forest.
You don't find these species in nurseries, so we are developing our own seed bank to preserve these seeds and to develop our own saplings to reforest or rewild these lands. Our master seed saver, Auntie Ji, is just making some space for her to sit on the tree. A little light pruning, and then we'll be harvesting these pods.
Local villager Janki Devi is harvesting the seeds of the kedri, considered the most precious tree of the Thar Desert.
It could be categorized as the tree of life of desert because it provides everything when there is drought, when there's extreme temperature. Then also it keeps on providing food for animals as well as humans. Because when there is no food, there is always khejdi food. तो आज क्या क्या लेके आए?
आज केले लेने हैं, गूंद लेने हैं, अमरूद लेने हैं।
दिखा दो एक बार।
दिखा दो। केले।
It'll take Janki Devi the rest of the afternoon to sort and clean the day's bounty. Under experienced hands, the harvested seeds can be preserved for years, ready to be eaten whenever food runs low. For the women of the Marwar region, knowing how to use famine foods is an essential survival skill in this harsh, infertile land. But Gaurev's forest experiment offers a promise of change.
If we could do this type of stuff, like restoring water cycle, developing the natural jungles, native jungles of this space, this could genuinely be a natural farming belt. This could bring revolution in terms of growing food in this area.
Pak Martin itu saya kenal, dia punya lahan tapi sedikit sekali. Selamat sore Dirga, selamat sore Pak Martin, selamat sore Mama Hana. Apa kabar? Di musim kemarau ini Pak Martin dan bersama keluarga sangat rawan pangan. Apalagi anaknya itu harus makan yang bergizi sebenarnya. Baik Bapak Mama Hana, saya kesini untuk antarin sayur buat Papa dan Mama. Untuk bisa makan bersama keluarga. Ada terung, ada labu. Mungkin Mama bisa masak untuk...
Musim kemarau begini bisa saja ini sayur subur.
Jadi dari pompa basah itu kan kita bisa alirkan ke kebun. Semua lengkap di sana, Ma.
Oh, lengkap semua,
Lengkap. Ini sekalian saya mau ajak Bapak dan Mama Hana ini untuk mungkin bisa bergabung dengan kami untuk tanam sayur bersama kelompok kami di lahan sebelah ini.
Pak bisa mau minta kita bergabung, kita siap berterima kasih, bersyukur untuk mengikuti bergabung kelompok itu.
It won't be long before Drought once again returns to Sumba. But this time, Martin and Anna will be able to face the difficult months to come with hope.
Dirga, ini sayur gizi, kita siap masak sebentar, campur dengan bubur, cucu. Dirga, ini makanan bergizi.